Hello everybody, here's Mr. C. This is a short YouTube video regarding Lab 308. I thought I have a green marker here. Let's go to the next page here. Lab 308, when you go through content or follow your class plan, you end up in the Lab 308, rocks and minerals. We're only investigating minerals here. And what I want you to do first is do the lesson. Try to draw an arrow here. Laboratory rocks and minerals. It will tell you the background information as well as information you need to answer the questions after you do the lab. Below that you see your assignment folder as well as the instructions, and the first instruction says you complete the lesson 308, which is exactly that lesson. Once you download the lab here, 308 minerals modified docx, right? We're only working on these modified documents. Then you see and open it up, then you see this here. This is the top of the lab, and again it says at the beginning, complete the lesson. Okay, that means complete this lesson here. Sorry, I went a little bit too high. And then use it to use this virtual lab that I will explain to you in a second to do your work, and complete a table below where you're going to identify some minerals by their characteristics and actually identify an unknown also. This is just some extra screenshots from that lesson here. Did I mention it that you should do the lesson? I think I mentioned that already, right? It really helps you to get the maximum points in this lab. So here's your virtual lab. There's a whole long URL, and I abbreviated that in your lab here. bit.ly minerals lab should work for you, and this should come up in a browser window. Okay. If it doesn't come up, what I have here in red for you is try different browsers. Sometimes some pop-up blockers are enabled, sometimes they are not. So I can't say it works for Chrome and doesn't work for Firefox. One of those two will most likely work. Otherwise, check pop-up blockers. Make sure when you do your walkthrough here, this is your practice session, that your audio works, right? There's someone talking to you. Once you're in the session, you can use a drop down from here to zoom in and out, but also the letters Z and X will help you to drop in and out. And the only other pointer that I can give you before you start and have your own challenges, but be persistent here, remember where you picked up items so you can drop them at the same location. You will practice that in the walkthrough, but once you begin your lab, you might find it doesn't work because you want to drop things at certain places and it doesn't let you. And if everything freezes, you know, sometimes the animations are not as well debugged as we wish, then you just need to start over again. In other words, put that link here of the lab in the browser window again and press enter. Okay, that sometimes happens. So here's your virtual lab. This is this drop down up here. If you go with your hand, I selected a green hand down here, right? If you go with your hand up there, there's something coming down, and it's quite obvious, right? You can also reset the lab there. But you will see that with your magic hand, and you can choose a different color, you can pick up things. You can move your hand over an item here, the magnifying glass, the handle of it, and once you click on it, you will move with your hand. So you can look at things, and that's all the stuff you're going to do in your walkthrough. Just on the big picture again, up here is your testing materials, and down here are your sample materials. So those are the ones you're going to analyze the various characteristics. You're going to focus on actually calcite, which will be the mineral you're going to investigate in your walkthrough, as well as mica and quartz and magnetite, and your unknown. This will be the core of your lab. If you do also pyrite and sulfur, I give you the extra credit. You might as well do it because it's pretty easy to do, and you get 5 more extra points that I put into the extra credit category in Unit 3. That's all I want to say here. Here's your table where you go through the various parts now for each of the materials. Like the lab, like I said, says we're going to investigate calcite, mica, quartz, magnetite, and the unknown. And I don't. This is not a hard test, right? If you can make me an argument why the unknown is one of these 4, beforehand, so it's not going to be pyrite or sulfur. Based on your evaluations, then I take it, right? But you need to explain to me why. So the color is what you see, and just write in, you know, it's green, yellow, blue, whatever color you think it is. Now, color is somewhat subjective, and the lesson, did I mention you should do the lesson beforehand? The lesson will tell you that, right? There's a better way to look at things, that is a streak. A streak really looks at inside. Sometimes the color is, the surface is a little bit discolorized, and so you need to streak it on the streak plate. Up here is your streak plate, so you grab the materials and rub it over it. And once you use it, you need to anyhow reset the lab. So you're going to go in and out of that virtual lab quite a bit. The streak, so you document what you see there. Is it dark? Is it bright? It's anyhow, it's a color again, and describe the plate. Then luster is also a bit subjective. So say if it's shiny, if it's dull, whatever categorization you can come up with. Again, the lesson will help you to come up with good luster terms. Hardness, then you're going to scratch your materials with probably diamond. You're going to rub over diamond over all of them and see if it leaves some scratch marks. Well, then you know none of them is diamond, right? That we know already. But you should maybe use some of the materials, topaz, for example, that are then listed in your table here. Topaz has a hardness of 8, for example, to determine if you can scratch something with topaz, then you know it's harder than the material. So you can anything be lower than that. If you're not able to scratch something with glass, then you're going to narrow in there where's your real hardness, right? So come up with some hardness values from 1 to 10 here. Cleavage, you're going to break things apart with that hammer and chisel. And again, as you break things apart, say, hey, this breaks into cubes, this breaks into smooth faces, or this shatters totally. Magnetic property, you learn in the walkthrough how to do this, and you're going to investigate those materials for any sort of magnetic properties. And the reaction to acid, so you learn how to use that dropper and your acid bottle here, and on your minerals that you probably put over here on a space. You fill up your dropper and then drop some drops there, and while you have your light on, you watch if you see any sort of bubbles forming, right? So you're going to say basically yes or no. If yes, if there is a reaction, and no if there's no reaction. It's worth 6 points, but the real bang for the buck is in answering these questions, right? So the first one is worth 3 points. What is the unknown material? And I want you to justify it to me, right? And there's a little hint there. You just should look at the matching properties based on your table, right? And once you've used those, just explain to me why you came up with that mineral. Just don't write something there. The worst thing you can write, even a mineral that is not listed there, right? Then, why is it important to examine both color and streak of your minerals? We learned, or I just mentioned it, and you hear it in the presentation, color is not the best characteristic to use it. So give me a reason why streak is also important. And then, is luster a good characteristic to identify the minerals? So look back into your table and explain to me why or why that's not the case. Again, the lesson tells you all about this. And look, what if you have given a sample of quartz that has a hardness of 7? How can you use this mineral to determine the hardness of other minerals? Basically, you're applying what you just learned, how you can determine hardnesses with known hardnesses, right? Hardnesses of unknown materials with known hardnesses, and follow that process, right? If something is softer, you will be able to scratch it with quartz, and then the hardness is lower than 7, and the opposite, right? And then just a feedback from you, which of the our properties did help you most? Which are the most useful, which are the least useful, and explain to me why. So the explanation is really citing back, you know, you believe that maybe luster is very useful, and then you need to just quote back because I used Luster to characterize calcite, and it worked very well, and I could distinguish it very clearly from quartz, and maybe not, so the because is important, the explanation here. It's a 21 point lab, and you get potentially 5 extra credit points that I would track into the extra credit of Unit 3. And that's about it for an overview. I hope that's helpful. Have some fun with the lab, and we're going to have plenty of opportunities to give you help in content support sessions. The next lab is quite a ways out, and that makes me hopeful that many of you can do this lab. It's worth learning these virtual labs, as you will have many of them in your future. It's a very standard type of lab. This kind of thing you will see in definitely in biology, maybe in physics too, if you go that route. Probably in chemistry and also. So it's a standard format of these virtual labs. So thank you for listening, and have fun with that lab. Goodbye.